Distraction is a part of the meditation journey, but let's see what you can do when you do get distracted. I'm going to share 6 tips on how to work with your mind when it gets distracted during your practice. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Shubhali. This is Be Yog, Be Your Own Guide. The idea behind this channel being how you can learn to become your own inner guide, to be able to see what's happening within you, your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, your narratives, so that you can transform them, so that you can transform yourself, your life. All right. So let's dig into the 6 things that you can do when your mind does get distracted during meditation. Now, the first one is what you can do before you start the practice. So before you start the practice, setting an intention. So let's say you say, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. And so as you sit down, wherever you sit down. And if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you close your eyes and then you form an intention for the next 10 minutes. My entire awareness and focus will be on whatever it will be on. Let's say your meditation technique is focusing on the breath. So your intention is for the next 10 minutes, I will only focus on my breath. So you're setting an intention, which means you're already sort of getting your mind ready to walk on a certain path. So first tip is to set an intention before your practice. And this before cannot be like an hour before. It has to be immediately before you step into the practice. But if setting an intention would clear away the roadblock of distraction, then there would be no need for this video, right? So the second tip, as you're meditating, of course, your mind is going to get distracted and go here or there. So the second tip is to have an anchor object that you will bring it back to. What is an anchor object? If you're a beginner, probably your object of focus and your anchor object will be the same, which is to say, let me explain. Let's say you're a beginner and you've learned breathing, you've learned meditating on the breath. So you just, and let's say you're focusing at this area, below the nose and upper and above the upper lip. So you're focusing on this area. As you inhale, how the air feels here. As you exhale, how the air feels here. Let's say this is what you're focusing on. Then your breath is your focus object. It's what you're focusing on. You're becoming aware and maintaining your awareness there. And it's also your anchor object, which means if the mind goes somewhere else, gets distracted, the moment you realize it, this is important, this is crucial. The moment you realize you've started thinking about something else, and as soon as you can, bring it with gentleness and grace, say, oh, come back, come back to the breath, come back here, focus. So your breath then is your focus object as well as your anchor object. Let's say you were doing something else. Let's say your technique, the practice that you were doing was sensations in the body, sensations in the body, sensations in the body, and then your mind went away. If your mind went away and you became aware of it, the moment you became aware, bring it back to your anchor object, ideally your breath. And your breath, you can be focusing here, you can be focusing on the belly, wherever. Okay, but have an anchor object that you can bring your mind back to. And so bring it back to there. If your focus object is, let's say, sensations across the body, you bring it back to the anchor object. And then once it's become stable on the anchor object, then again start observing the sensations, observing the sensations. Okay. So the second thing, during meditation, if the mind goes away, bring it back to the anchor object. Thus, you should have an anchor object. Third is something that you do after meditation. So once you've done the practice for the day, then just reflect upon your practice. Okay, my mind went X number of times, and you may not even remember how many times. That's okay, doesn't matter. And then sort of reflecting and analyzing, okay, when my mind went away, this is what it got into. All right. Oh, this is what it got into. Now, this reflection practice is good for 2 things. One, the next time when you sit for your practice and you set intention, because you've reflected on this and your mind knows that, oh, okay, I don't want to be doing that. So your intention becomes stronger. Second, when you're sitting and analyzing, you're reflecting and analyzing where your mind went to at various points. you might get an aha, an insight of what your mind is maybe trying to show you for your current day to day. Maybe there's an issue that you've not been consciously aware of, or you've been trying to avoid, and your mind is presenting that to you. Okay. Now, this also brings us to tips 4, 5, and 6, because there are times that you can do everything, and yet your mind will keep going, keep getting distracted. So, tip 4, and this is in a sequence. Okay. So, first try tip 4, which is making a deal with your mind, which means that the moment you realize that your mind is again and again going to a specific spot, then say to yourself, say to your mind, okay, I will talk to you about this after the sit. And then honor the deal that you've made. So after the sit, after you've done your practice, then actually sit down and reflect and think about why your mind was again and again showing you, whatever, wherever it was taking you. Okay. So fourth tip is making a deal. If making a deal doesn't work, then stop, journal, and then start, which means you've tried everything else. You've set an intention, you kept trying to bring your mind back, you made a deal with yourself, with the mind, and still it didn't work. It is again and again getting pulled, pushed, pulled, pushed. What do? You pause your practice and you take a paper and a pen and you just start putting down anything and everything that your mind is showing you. Okay. And journal maybe for a half a page, 2 pages, for as much as is coming out. Yeah. Once it's done, then close the journal and then again sit down to practice. So that's tip number 5. Now, let's say you've done all of these. Set an intention, kept bringing the mind back. Tip 3 is for post meditation, so that will not work. But then tip 4, you made a deal with yourself. You journaled. You've tried everything, and still, when you sit down, your mind is getting distracted. The 6th tip is acceptance. This is the nature of my mind currently in this moment. It is very unstable, it is very distracted. How can I best be with this mind? Grace, tolerance, kindness. That's how you be with that mind. Acceptance that, okay, I've tried all these different things. Whatever this energy is still present. All right. I'll be with it then. Yeah. And as your practice grows, your distractions begin to sort of lose their strength. And yet, there will be times when suddenly, despite having a good practice for a long time, suddenly the distractions will raise. And that's okay. That's basically what's happening is that over a period of time of practicing, you've cleared maybe a layer of distractions. When you've cleared the top layer, then the second layer now becomes available to you. And then slowly it will rise up. And when it rises up, many a times people feel, oh, my practice has become bad. It hasn't become bad. You've unlayered a new layer. And every time a new layer is unlayered, something will change in the practice, and that's okay. That's how it is supposed to be. All right. So I hope these 6 tips have been helpful. If they have, do think about subscribing, sharing this video with other people who are wanting to practice or who are meditating and struggling with distractions. And I will see you in one of my next videos.